Well, it is indeed a great shift that we are witnessing at the moment, from fossil fuels to renewable energy, from combustion engines to electric cars, from car ownership to mobility as a service. We at Shift have tried to bundle the big and small transformation processes for you in one place. Our study, The Great Shift, has identified the trends and developments that move and shake the world of mobility, transport, and that change our societies and lives. Please welcome Oliver Heyden from Press Relations, the author of that study.
Yeah, hello to all and everyone, and thank you for having me. I'm Oliver Heyden. I'm working as a chief strategist for a Germany-based media analysis and media monitoring company, Press Relations. And this company has invented a few years ago an early bird method of identifying new topics and new trends. Just right at that moment, they fall into the echo rooms of decision makers and consumers. And based on this first signals called method, we did a research for the Shift Mobility, made a 70 pages report out of it, where we grasp some of the 80 most tremendous mobility topics we find in the media. Based was the analysis on 15,000 media titles, English-speaking and German-speaking as well, and over the last 12 months. So the whole report is based on this media coverage of mobility trends. So it don't works. It just hangs. My presentation, oh yes, now it works. Okay, some words to the methodology. We have 3 criteria to select or choose the most stunning topics of the future of mobility. The first one was trending topics. The topic is still well known, but is still fresh as well. The second one is a new perspective. Also, this topic is well known, but it's added a new perspective which transforms it into a new out of sight. And the third one is really brand new and has high potential to become a trend. So these 80 grasp topics, we have to cluster into 10 chapters of the future of mobility, which are micromobility, or better, short-range logistics, software and in-car technology, mobility and sustainability, e-mobility and battery technology, autonomous driving, mobility platforms, new strategies for automotive sales, new concepts for air mobility, new urbanism, and finally, mobility and new spatial developments. Due to my time slot, I want to stress out only some shortcuts of the main results of some of the most thrilling chapters you see here. So let's start with this one, the micro-mobility, which we mean, or we call the last mile of logistics. Maybe all of you who are living in cities know this situation of parcel vans parking in the second line of the street, but there isn't really a second line. And that's the problem. And I'm sure some of you hate them. But what seems to be a nuisance is clearly a real huge problem right now, because last mile parcel services obviously have reached the last mile really of their capacity. They clog the cities, they cause serious traffic jams, and have the biggest emission share of the whole delivery supply chain. And that's why the New York Times, in a leading article, called it the Shippergeddon problem. But the market of last mile logistics has moved into gain heavily with some tremendously new and thrilling concepts and solutions. First of all, there is crowd delivery. It's a kind of an Uberization of goods delivery. Then we have public transport for parcels with trams or metros. Then we have delivery robots. They size like a big puzzle, autonomous charging and driving. We have car parks which transform their business models into delivery hubs, leaving space for micro depots which are grounded at every mile in the city. And finally, we have robo-ships and barges, which are autonomous shipping driven. And you can see them at work in Amsterdam and Utrecht, and they are testing out in Hamburg quite as well. And finally, just this one will come down to earth. It's megaliner cargo bikes. So the market of micromobility will sharply transform in the next years. The next chapter is software and in-car technology. Along with Bosch, Siemens and Continental, high-tech companies as NVIDIA and Intel subsidiary Mobileye are gaining more and more importance as key players for the future of car mobility. NVIDIA and Mobileye are some of the biggest and technology leading players in the field of autonomous driving. Meanwhile, German car makers are in a huge struggle against Google to set the worldwide standard for car software, and also to its daughter Waymo to set the standards for autonomous driving. And experts we covered in the media agree that software will be the central battleground of the car makers industry of the future, but not the only one. A second one will be this one. Many cars soon will be just a device. Premium will be defined by innovative interiors and thrilling in-car technology with some new surprising competitors like haute couture fashion companies. So, the next chapter, I put together sustainability and e-mobility. We have a clear winner. Despite very huge discussions about green hydrogen as an alternative propulsion system to battery-driven mobility, with more than 44,000 articles in the last 12 months, more and more experts agree that this race has clearly a winner, and this is e-mobility, because the market for e-mobility is on the verge of a major breakthrough in 2021. And its infrastructure progress, despite its huge problems, has a 10 years advantage in comparison to green hydrogen. And so we also looked into a bright future of e-mobility, because solid-state batteries are knocking on our doors and should hit the markets in 2022. And with 700 miles distances, out of a single charge, they will overcome the biggest bottleneck of e-mobility, the range anxiety. And also there is a sudden game changer maybe. You just could Google it. It would raise your eyebrows, I'm sure. It's called hydrogen power paste, developed by Fraunhofer IFAM in Dresden in Germany, and with energy density higher than conventional hydrogen and 10 times higher than lithium batteries, and with this easiness to handle, that's the crucial point, it could offset the disadvantages of hydrogen in terms of fuels and charging infrastructure. But there also is a new bottleneck for e-mobility. It's in the terms of wall boxes. They are necessary if you want to charge your e-mobile overnight at private space, a possibility which is seen as crucial for a sustained, evolving mass market. There's no problem if you live in a single house on the countryside. But if you live in the dense center of a city, with flats having 5 or more floors, and your car parking in the public space right on the streets, it's a very huge problem, and that's the bottleneck in this case. And we have a new dilemma. It is about lithium. It's called the new oil by the Forbes magazine. Why? There are several problems for the future. The first one is sustainable recycling solutions still missed out. The second one, environmental destruction, and also new geostrategic tensions due to mining. And this is even more the case if we have to use deep-sea mining, like some experts proclaim. And take some seconds for the comic. So, the next chapter, autonomous driving. Okay, there's CES Las Vegas. Presentations on autonomous car technology did little to make you want the stuff. But don't worry, that was in 2020. For 1 year, the idea of autonomous driving was practically buried by the most tech journalists at CES 2020. But in 2021, things have changed to the opposite. With more than 350,000 articles, is the second most reviewed mobility topic after e-mobility in the media 2021. And in the United States, it's the front runner of all mobility topics. Then you have recent development leaps with this LiDAR technology in the middle, its laser detection and ranging becoming the key technology front runner, have moved this topic back to the top in 2021. What's notable is that we find some quotations of Elon Musk, who proclaims that a high-end camera system is enough for level 3 autonomous driving. Meanwhile, autonomous driving Tesla accidents are wandering through the media. And whereas Waymo, the technology leader, which equipped its cars with LiDAR technology, has run more than 50 million miles without any accident. The second one, which leads autonomous driving to the top, came out of Germany. It's a bit surprising, but serious government efforts in drafting concrete legislation for regular road operation on level 3 and above could make Germany really a fierce mover in this field. And there is a newly developed LiDAR on a system chip system, which will significantly reduce the awfully high cost of 65,000 euros for a full equipped level 4 LiDAR car, like technology leader Waymo uses it. And finally, Bain Consultancy report awaits a 85% downturn of system costs until the end of our century and a mass market starting in 2028. That's not so long. The next chapter is what I call new urban development approaches. The first one is the most popular one. It's the smart city. With more than 33,000 articles, is by far the most popular media topic dealing with urbanism for the last 12 months, as well as in the years before. But as Frankfurter Allgemeine Zeitung in Germany stressed out, but yet there are not only a single smart city project which has come to reality, but the advantages are clear. Like McKinsey stressed out, 30 to 40% less crime, illness down 50%, reduces the daily rush hour traffic by 30 minutes per person, save 80 liters of water consumption per person every year. But still there are, and it's a growing number, of really angry critics, like this very famous business professional from Toronto, where the most famous smart city project of our time just was quitted by Google due to huge critics. So, due to issues like data security and widespread surveillance, it has become increasingly controversial in the media. And the critics said and stressed out that the smart city is rather a business model than addressing the real problems cities are facing. But what are really the big problems cities are facing? One of the most influential political scientists in the United States puts it perfectly in one sentence. It's just climate, integration, safety, and mobility. And concepts who will approach these problems, who will address these problems, will come to success. And there are one. New planning approaches dealing with city life quality, for example. They recently gained strong and increasingly more media attention. And different to the smart city, they are reality. The first one, and recently the most popular one in the media, was invented by Anne Hidalgo, the Mayoress of Paris. It's her 50-minute city, or her city of proximity. It stressed out or focused on sustainability, closeness, traffic calming, and better neighborhoods. All the city functions and the infrastructure you need should be concentrated in every quarter of the whole city for itself. So all should be accessible by foot, bicycle, or public transport within 50 minutes. More or less similar to that is Barcelona's superblocks approach. But the most experienced and oldest approach, which is also similar to the city of proximity, is called gender planning, the inclusive city of Vienna. You all know that Vienna was for years the top spot of the worldwide city rankings as the most livable. And this is due to this concept of gender planning, which was established in the early 90s of the last century. It also promotes inclusion and diversity, as well as sustainability, closeness, and improvement of life in the neighborhood for everyone, similar to the 50-minute city. And the newest concept comes from Asia. It's called dumb city concepts. It's called dumb because it don't deal with digitalization. But nevertheless, it's quite smart and even uses high-tech materials. But it's a mixture of some naturally growing structures and artificially built structures, like nanoporous materials for fighting against impervious surfaces in the cities, for fighting against flood events. Or you have some high-tech materials for house fronts, who filtering out air pollution and who help reducing overheating of these house fronts. And another one is the Miyawaki forests, they call so, or tiny forests. They have a size not much more than a kids' playground, and they aim, or they help to cool down the city, and also to help against impervious surfaces, and also they filtering out air pollution. The most popular in the media is the so-called sponge city of Chinese design professor Kongjian Yu, that facilitates the localized collection and storage of rainwater in the city in order to reduce the sealing of soils and water consumption. And although these concepts are invented for hot regions in the world, and the monsoon regions in the world especially, it has gained tremendously more and huge attention in Europe due to recent flood catastrophes and recent weather extremes. And so it has grown very big in the media recently. So how does the smart city approach relate to the concepts of a livable city? What you see here is not a texture from a wallpaper, it's the bird perspective of a megacity of our world. How would the city look like if it transformed into a smart city and not being built directly out of a drawing board? I think it would look like that. I mean, okay, that's maybe, I have to admit, it's a bit exaggerated, but what I want to stress out is what many critics of the smart city concept said, that smart cities are hardly seen as a holistic solutions dealing with climate change and overheating cities, pollution, diversity, inclusion, and integration. And that's completely in contradiction to livable city concepts. And why are livable city concepts are so very important for our future? And that gets me to the last chapter of my presentation. It's the new spatial deployments or developments. It's about telemigration, digital nomads, vocation, traffic bubbles, and urban exodus. The catchword telemigration was coined by Richard Baldwin, professor of economics at Geneva University, and is entangled with digital nomads. Vocation means you work where you usually do your vocation. And traffic bubbles are like Lithuania does with some Caribbean states. They did a working visa contract with Caribbean states to get their IT professionals work in the sun. So the tremendous thing about it is that in the first time of human history, you just don't have to live where you have to work. So you can choose where you want to live. And the problem is, it seems that people don't choose the cities to live in anymore. It's triggered by Corona, but all experts agree that this trend will last quite beyond Corona. And from the lots of quotations we found to this topic, I give you only 3 ones, which are most thrilling. The trend is obvious. More people are moving to suburbs. And the Côte d'Azur will turn into a workplace, and so will Mallorca. And it's all about livability. The people move to the pretty romantic countrysides, and that brings more problems or new problems for both the cities and these countrysides. They bring gentrification problems to these countrysides. They deepen over-tourism problems. And vice versa, the city problems are also deepened. And for centuries lasting contradiction between the rural and the urban spaces gets blurred. And this blurring leads us maybe to a problem that some of our current future mobility concepts are just turned into future mobility concepts from the past. Thank you. If you want to get a full-size report, then just email to pressrelations.com or the Chief Mobility Administration. Thanks.
Oliver Heyden from Press Relations, thank you so much for breaking down your study for us.